Breaking news. The United Nations has reportedly requested that Putin extend a grain deal involving the Black Sea in exchange for continued access to SWIFT. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has proposed to Russian President Vladimir Putin that he connect a subsidiary of Russia's agricultural bank to the SWIFT international payment system in exchange for extending a deal allowing the safe Black Sea export of grain from Ukraine. Russian demands to ship its own grain and fertilizer abroad have not been met, and the country has threatened to abandon the grain deal, which is set to expire on Monday. 2 ships are currently loading cargo at the Ukrainian port of Odessa in accordance with the Black Sea Agreement. Roskosbank, a Russian agricultural bank, needs to be reconnected to the SWIFT international payment network, as this is one of Moscow's primary demands. As a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in June 2022, the European Union severed ties with the country. In May, an EU spokesperson denied plans to reinstate Russian banks. However, 3 sources familiar with the talks told Reuters on Wednesday that the EU is considering connecting to SWIFT a subsidiary of Roskosbank in order to allow specifically for grain and fertilizer transactions. A comment from the European Commission was requested but went unanswered at first. 2 sources familiar with the discussions told Reuters that Guterres has proposed to Putin that Russia allow the Black Sea grain deal to continue for several months, giving the EU time to connect a Roskosbank subsidiary to SWIFT. A UN spokesman said on Wednesday that on Tuesday, Guterres wrote to Putin proposing a course of action to further ease Russian food and fertilizer exports and ensure the continued Black Sea shipments of Ukrainian grain. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric told reporters that the goal was to enable the continued flow of Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea, by removing obstacles to financial transactions through the Russian Agricultural Bank, a major concern expressed by the Russian Federation. He did not elaborate on the proposal, but he did say that Guterres was talking to everyone involved in the issue and was open to more talks with Russia. Requests for comment from the Kremlin were not immediately met with a response. Moscow's invasion and blockade of Ukrainian ports exacerbated a global food crisis, prompting the United Nations and Turkey to mediate the Black Sea Grain Initiative between Russia and Ukraine in July 2022. To get Russia on board with the Black Sea Agreement, the United Nations and Russia signed a 3-year memorandum of understanding promising to facilitate Russian exports of food and fertilizer. Russia claims that restrictions on payments, logistics, and insurance have acted as a barrier to shipments, despite the fact that sanctions imposed by the West in response to the invasion of Ukraine do not apply to food and fertilizer exports. UN officials have gotten U.S. bank J.P. Morgan Chase & Company JPM and to begin processing some Russian grain export payments despite the bank's inability to use SWIFT due to lack of guarantees from the U.S. government. The top UN trade official told Reuters last month that the United Nations is collaborating with the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, to develop a platform to facilitate the processing of transactions related to Russian exports of grain and fertilizer to Africa.